My name is Tiana, and this story will be very interesting for you. While it was a sad one for me, now I'm just happy I dodged a bullet. I almost married into a judgmental family, but was saved at the last minute. Here is the story about how I escaped a bad marriage. So my life was pretty boring when I was in school. I was a big introvert and didn't date much. It was when I went to college that I met John. He was actually in medical school, and I was pursuing a degree in architecture. Our colleges were close to each other, and we met at a local cafe. It was love at first sight for me. You see, he was one of those very few people who knew how to hold a conversation with me. Naturally, we hit it off and started dating about 2 months after we met. John was a very good student with a great career ahead. He was pretty ambitious and always talked about making it big. I really liked that he was driven and wanted to make something out of his life. John came from a middle-class family with 2 hardworking parents. I could see that we had a lot in common, so it was easy to be with him. However, I never realized that John was actually a pretty judgmental person. This became evident when I took him to meet my family. My father, Gary, was hosting Christmas alone because my mom had to be out of state for work. So I decided to invite John and celebrate Christmas together. I was also super excited to introduce him to my father. However, things didn't go well when they finally met. Initially, things were okay, but when they started talking, John was acting strange. He said, "Gary, your daughter is an amazing woman. I'm so happy to have found her. If you hadn't funded her college education, I may have missed out on meeting her." "Oh, I didn't fund her college, John. I'm a poor plumber, and college money can be a lot. My little girl is pretty talented and landed scholarships right off the bat." "I'm sorry, I don't understand. You are a plumber, but you live in such a good house." "That's all my wife, actually. This was part of her inheritance. Plumbing business is hard, and it rarely pays enough to buy a good house, but it is honest work, so I don't mind. It must be hard earning so little and supporting your family. You are a good role model for Tiana." "Yes, I get a lot of inspiration from Dad. He works very hard to take care of me." John gave me a weird look and changed the topic. The conversation felt strange after that. We had our dinner and opened presents. John was pretty shocked that I got a brand new iPhone. He didn't comment on it, but I could see it was bothering him. After you went home, Dad decided to talk to me about him. He said, "I have a feeling John didn't like me as much. I guess he thought you had rich parents." But I never gave him the idea, Dad. I don't know why he was so surprised. I will talk to him about his behavior. He has been a little rude to you. No, you don't have to mess up your relationships because of me. You hardly date anyway. I'm glad you found someone who loves you. As long as he treats you right, I don't mind if he looks down on me. Yes, that's my dad for you. He values the happiness of his family over everything else. He always puts aside his pride to see us happy." However, I felt mad on his behalf. I knew I had to talk to John about his behavior. However, before I could breach the topic, he invited me over to meet his family. His family stayed in a different city, so I went over to meet them. Right off the bat, I knew that his family was uncomfortable around me. His father, Kevin, tried to be friendly, but his mom, Kelly, was downright hostile. She never smiled or looked at me for too long. John was his usual self, but I could feel him getting tense. I brushed off the awkwardness because I didn't want to ruin the meeting. When we finally started having a conversation, Kelly said, "So, I heard you were a plumber's daughter." "Yes, my father has his own plumbing business. He has been on this job for a while." "How sad is it for you? It must be hard living with such a loser father." I don't understand how people who don't work hard end up having families they can't feed. Excuse me, my father actually does work very hard. I have a decent life. I don't consider my dad to be a loser. Kelly, that was rude. You can't say things like that. Tiana is a guest. Well, it's the truth. I don't care if it's true. I don't know where my son picked up this trash. John, I thought you knew better than to date beneath you. Mom, Tiana's a great girl. She even has a good career. She's not beneath me at all. Kelly, I know your son is going to be a big doctor. I also know that I can't ever match up to him, but that's not what makes relationships successful. My mother. Let's not talk about the poor decisions your mother took in life. My son deserves more because he's set to be successful. That's enough, Kelly. You need to apologize to Tiana. I don't know why you're acting like this. Kelly never apologized, but did shut up after Kevin scolded her. John also steered the topic in another direction. Kevin and I did have some good conversation, but the mood was soured. It was even more evident with the faces Kelly was making. When I went back home, I told John not to contact me for some time. His family really threw me off with their behavior. Sure, his father was great, but his mom is a walking disaster. It didn't help that John never discouraged her rants against my dad. So a few days later, I called him up and asked to meet him. We met at our usual local cafe and started to talk. I said, "Sorry for being so quiet, John." I had a lot going on in my mind. You see, I don't like the way you and your mom talked about my dad. It was downright disrespectful. Sorry, Jenna. My mom is just old-fashioned, so she has some issues with family status. She knows I'm serious about you, so she's looking out for me. I get it, John, but you never defended my father either. You were pretty rude to him when you came to my place. I was just taken aback by your dad, Tiana. I always thought you came from a better family. I was simply surprised. My family is great as it is. If you are going to be judgmental about it, it is better to end it here. That caught John off guard. He started to apologize for his behavior and begged me to give him a chance. I was really pissed at what he had said earlier, but he looked genuinely willing to try and be better. So I gave him another chance. However, I made it clear that I would leave if he continued to insult my family. He apologized for being rude and promised he would try his best. Things were really promising for a few years, mostly because John rarely visited me and my parents. Every time I asked him over, he had his excuses ready. Instead, he always insisted I visit his house and spend time with his parents. Kevin was fun to spend time with, however, Kelly was always nitpicking my choices in life. Everything from my clothes to my lifestyle choices bothered her. She said, "If you want to be with my son, you better change your ways. He has a prestigious career, and your middle-class ways won't be a good look for him." What is wrong with my lifestyle? I don't overspend and try to manage my income without being a spendthrift. Look, being cheap and tacky might have worked out for your parents, but it won't work for John. Our family standards are higher than yours. You need to adapt to them. I always found her words insulting and annoying. However, I refused to fight with her and engage her more than necessary. John was not making weird comments anymore, and that's what mattered. I did try to talk about Kelly's behavior to John. However, he simply said he can't control what Kelly thinks. I could understand his point, so I didn't push the issue any further. John never got to meet my mom. As I said, he never made time for my family. He did have a hectic schedule, and things got worse after he joined work as a doctor. John made time for me, but traveling to meet my family was too much for him. I never pushed him to spend time with my parents. I tried to be cooperative because I knew he had a stressful job. It was 3 years later that he proposed to me. He was already working as a doctor and earning well. I was satisfied with my job as an architect, so we were both ready for marriage. Trust me, I was over the moon when he proposed. It was romantic and perfect. Even the ring was what my dreams were made of. I just couldn't say anything other than yes. However, the worst was yet to come. When I called my parents and informed them about the proposal, they were pretty happy for me. My mom even said that it was time she welcomed him into the family with a big dinner. However, his family had a very different reaction. I was there when he called them. "Mom, Dad, we're engaged. I proposed to her yesterday, and she said yes." "That's great, guys. I'm so happy for you. When is the engagement party, Jana? I can't wait to formally have you as my daughter-in-law." "Thank you, Kevin. I'm happy to join your family, too." "Mom, won't you say something?" "I have a lot to say, but I want to speak to you alone. Come see me tomorrow. We need to talk." With that, Kelly simply hung up on us. We were pretty confused about what had happened. John promised to talk to his mom and sort it out. I don't know what happened between them, but John was pretty upset after their talk. He refused to tell me anything. Kelly was also not returning my calls or even talking to me when I visited. I simply didn't care. I knew she never liked me, and I was done taking her nonsense. John and I were pretty happy with our engagement. We even started to slowly plan a wedding and try to set a date. John got an amazing job at a big hospital in my city, so he was looking forward to moving here. The new hospital was also giving him about 60% more money than his last one. Suffice to say, we were all pretty happy for him. But things were going to become pretty bad for me. You see, before we could even set a date, John decided to have a serious talk with me. One day, he called me and told me that we needed to talk. I was kinda nervous because he had never sounded so serious in his life. I was pretty anxious when I met him. I didn't know that my worst nightmare was waiting to happen. He said, "I'm so sorry, Tiana. I don't think I can be with you. We need to end the engagement." "What, John? Have you lost your mind? What the hell happened? What did I do?" "You didn't do anything, Tiana. It's just that we are not compatible anymore. I do love you, but I think this is for the best." "You can't be serious, John. What are you not telling me? We were doing fine so far." "Don't push it, Tiana. I don't want to upset you anymore. Just know that it's not your fault. It's just the circumstances that you are in." "Oh, so this is about my family. That's why you are leaving, aren't you?" "I'm sorry, Tiana. I really love you, but I have to think of my future." "Save it, John. I don't want to hear it. Consider us done." With that, I simply got up and left. I drove straight home and didn't look back. My parents were there to comfort me. I cried for days in their arms. I told them what had happened. They were furious on my behalf. However, they also said that I was better off without John. Dad, however, felt a little guilty that his background caused me so much trouble. My heart just broke even more. It was about a week later that Kelly showed up at my house. She had this awfully smug look on her face. She stared at everything in distaste and walked into the house. I was surprised to see her here. I said, "What do you want, Kelly? You have no business coming here. I'm here for the engagement ring. My son will need it when he proposes to a better woman. Give it back." He could have told me. "I would have dropped it off at your house. Why are you here?" "Well, I wanted to see you one last time. You see, your parents didn't teach you well. I mean, it was pretty ambitious of you to try to be a doctor's wife. My son is so successful now. He needs more than the plumber's daughter as his wife. So I called him and put some sense into him. So that's why he broke it off with me. You think he is too good for a plumber's daughter. Of course, I made him do it. He was so blinded by you that he was ready to set aside his standards. I had to make him see reason. He is all set to be even more famous by joining the new hospital. You're just not good enough for him anymore. I understood that, Kelly. I'm okay with what he has done. I don't need a judgmental and immature partner anyway. I hope he finds someone with a family that suits his standards. Oh, don't worry, dear. I'm pretty sure he will find someone at the hospital. I heard their board of directors has some pretty daughters. I will help him get one soon. He will forget about you and marry one of them. I was on the verge of laughter when the perfect thing happened. My mom walked in. You see, I texted my mother when Kelly showed up at the house. I had been planning my revenge against them for a while. It was time to make it happen. You see, my mom is actually one of the hospital directors. My late grandpa was also one when he was alive. My mom actually met my father when he was hired for some minor work at the hospital. Initially, Grandpa was against the relationship. They were successful in changing his mind. My mom takes some serious issues when someone looks down on Dad and me. She was super mad when she discovered what happened with John. Now she was here for my revenge. Kelly and John had no idea what was coming. Kelly took one look at my mom and went as white as a ghost. I knew she had done enough research to know who my mom is. Kelly literally shattered and said, "Oh my God, you are one of the directors at the hospital here. What are you doing here?" "Hello there, I'm Erin. You must be Kelly. My daughter said a lot about you." "Daughter?" "Yeah, the one your son ditched a few days ago. I'm sure it must have been hard to date a plumber's daughter." "He didn't mean it that way. I never knew you were Tiana's mother. John never mentioned it." "That's because he never met me. If he had an ounce of respect for my family, he would have made the effort. He did reject a lot of my invitations. I'm a very private person, so I told Tiana to keep my job a secret. The ring, perhaps John will realize he made a mistake." "You mean you will tell John that now I am perfect for him, and then he will try to make things right, and I will take him back. I don't think my plumber father will allow that." "Don't be so harsh. John was being stupid. You can forgive him. You do love each other, right? I'm sure you can overlook that." "There is no need for that. My daughter is better off without a judgmental idiot like him. By the way, it's good that we met. I need you to pass a message to your son. Tell him that the hospital will take back the job offer. He can look for employment elsewhere." "What? No, please don't do this. John is a great doctor. He will be an asset to your hospital." "Absolutely not. John might be a great doctor, but he is a horrible person. We don't want judgmental and greedy people in the hospital. He knows we have a morality clause. There is no way we will hire someone who looks down on people." Please, this is a misunderstanding. I'm sure John will make it right. He already left his other job for your hospital. Don't do this to him. We will do anything to change your mind. Tiana, please talk to your mom. She makes her own decisions, Kelly. Oh, here's the ring you asked for. Now that you have it, you can leave." No, please keep the ring. We can talk this out." Kelly just kept begging us to change our minds. She made all kinds of promises to save John's job. She even offered to apologize to Dad and beg for his forgiveness. Mom said that she won't allow Kenny anywhere near her family again. With that, we promptly kicked her out while she was crying her eyes out. After Kelly left, I did get multiple calls and texts from John. He was begging me to make my mother reconsider her decision. He also accused me of sabotaging his career. I simply replied that he did this to himself. For this next step in my revenge, I told all my mom's friends about what happened. They were appalled by John's behavior. Word spread, and almost everyone in the industry knew about John's actions. So he was being rejected by all the prestigious hospitals in the state. Most of them knew my mom and respected her a lot, so they refused to hire someone who betrayed her family. John and Kelly pretty much harassed me every day to change my mind. They kept begging me to come back. Even Kevin called me up. However, he just apologized for his family's behavior. He also said that Kelly had spoiled John on his future. They have had multiple arguments about me in the past. Kevin had finally decided to separate from her. He just couldn't stay with someone so cruel and manipulative. I wished him the best and told him that he deserved better. My life pretty much went back to normal in a few months. The calls and texts from Kelly and John stopped when I threatened to sue for harassment. Kevin told me that he had kicked them out and they had to move to a different state. John did find a job, but it wasn't earning well. Additionally, he had to shoulder the expenses of his mother. John was now blaming his mother for ruining his life. He's actually regretting his life choices, while I am